again, and welcome to the Sound of Our Identity. We are in the Heritage Month. We have been looking at various, music forms, what defines us as a people in terms of music. Today we are looking at hip life, and Afrobeat. I'm sure this one, the young people, the millennials, the Gen Zs would appreciate this much more. This looks like we are in your zone, but I'm sure in previous editions you have been studying, you have been learning, but now we are partying, because we are in your hood. So hip life and Afrobeat. And my guest today is going to be Dr. Eric Sunudo, who is Senior Lecturer, Music Department, University of Ghana. I'm Frema Edwinyame. Right after this break, we'll have the conversation on. You're welcome back. This is the Sound of Our Identity, and my guest is just so ready, Dr. Eric Sunudo. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you.
The last time we had a conversation, it was on high life, and we learned so much about high life. And my takeaway, from that episode was the fact that, in fact, we are not really doing high life today. The high life that we think we are doing, no, that is not the high life.
Different kind of life.
So we are doing different types of high life, but it's okay. We'll pardon you for creativity's sake, So the base is there, but you are adding other things to it. So if you think, or if you tell yourself that I am the high life artist, maybe you are, 60% high life and 40% something else. So we can pardon you. But Doc, today we are looking at hip life, the rise of hip life and youth culture. And then we'll move into Afrobeat, because today we have so many, so people say they are doing Afrofusion, they are doing Afro this, Afro that, and all that. But we can start from hip life. Hip life, we all understand, we all know, but throw more light on that for us. And also don't forget the debate on who brought hip life.
Yeah.
The Reggie Rockstone, the Ambule, all that stuff. So let's talk hip life.
So I'm sure everybody would know that hip life started in the 90s, probably mid to late 90s.
Yes.
And it's been attributed to Reggie Rockstone. The Ambule debate is an afterthought. He was doing something like that, but Ambule has always been a funk musician.
Exactly. He even described his music as
funky life.
Funk life, silly bado.
Exactly.
He never called it hip life.
But he had some elements of rap in there. Yeah. Probably that is where the debate is coming.
Yes.
But let's take it as Reggie Rockstone is that catalyst for what has been known as hip life. Right. Started from the mid, probably gained traction in the late 90s.
Yeah.
When he released the album.
The Ways to See a Plan B.
But he was not the only one then. We often don't talk about Nana King.
Yeah.
Nana King and Nana Queen. I was reading Christian Adolfo's book on Afrobeat whilst I was preparing, and he seemed to have neglected the Nana Queen aspect of it, attributing the first female probably to what's her name?
Is it Abriwana?
No, the 16-year-old
Miss Bell.
Miss Bell.
Yeah.
I found that to be interesting because there was Nana Queen who was playing critical feminine.
Mommy.
Exactly. Right. So those were the people who started it off. But then we could circle it back to the conversation of what high life was. And in that same understanding of
hip life
to hip life.
Okay, right.
That it's not something that they said they were going to do. It is something that came out of a social experiment. Again, that idea of popular culture and popular music as borrowing from the West, right? There was a high life base and there was a hip hop base.
Yeah.
So we borrowed the hip hop. You could think of it in what we in academia call local interaction.
Yeah, then
take Coca-Cola for instance, and the Coca-Cola you taste in Ghana is different from what you taste elsewhere, right? So we found a way of localizing it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the same thing with the music. So how do we indigenize rap or hip hop? We have high life, and then we have the.
So is it just about the language? Because when you look at what Reggie brought, it wasn't any different from what the Americans were doing. And he also, because of that influence, stayed out for so long, he came in and it looked like the only difference was the language. So there was something missing that we didn't pay attention to.
So if we are spoken about how high life began, you would have seen that what we call high life at the point of intimacy is not how it started.
Okay, yes, you're right.
But of course, it was something, that is why they call it a movement. It was something that was building up. We were trying to integrate the rap culture, the hip hop culture, into high life, which was our popular culture. It came with so many other things, fashion, graffiti, as was being done in the Americas. But then ours was to us. How do we cartoon, for instance? How do we do graffiti? So it was speaking to our context, right? Even when he would rap in the tree, the way he was rapping was not how we would speak.
No.
Exactly. There was some fastness to it.
Yeah.
Let's think of Burger High Life too. And it was that same ideology. So there is high life as a base. And then they met disco, they met funk, they met reggae, and they brought it together. So that was what was happening to Hiplife in the late 1990s. So the first record, you hear a lot of hip-hop derived beat.
Yeah.
And it was also because that person who created that beat was an American. Right? So of course it brings his sensitivity to it.
Yeah.
So that is Hiplife and how it started.
How has it evolved? Did Afrobeat come from Hiplife, or Afrobeat is a complete genre that we've created?
The Afrobeat conversation is now bringing everything we do in Africa under one beat. So all this is African music. That is Afro.
Yeah.
In a beat. But there was already the Afrobeat without the S.
Okay.
That was championed by Fela.
Okay. Oh.
And it has specific identity, like elements that you can identify. For instance, the rhythm, the moan, the length of the song.
Exactly.
And how the improvisation.
This music is quite lengthy.
Exactly. But the Afrobeats we are hearing or we hear can be thought of in the context of high life, in the sense that there are several styles being thrown in. So somebody would say, I'm doing soul, Afro soul. It's an Afrobeat song.
Right.
You know. So we can't speak in that terms. Because then the Afrobeat, they're putting a lot of songs together. But Hiplife was specific. Bring high life, bring hip hop. How do we find that feeling?
So does that mean that any song that we are not too sure where it belongs to is Afrobeats?
So
it's not high life, you know.
Yes.
It's not hip life.
Yes.
But it's music. It's nice.
Yeah.
So Afrobeats.
It could be. When you say any music, then it's a bit too vague.
Okay.
I mean, somebody can do Adowa, Mami Ode, and all those people. We can't call them as Afrobeat, you know.
Yeah.
But if you want to stretch the argument, we could say that. But what I'm
yes, even the Mami Odes, you can put them under the Nyom Crow kind of people, right?
Exactly. But then there's also some kind of transformation that has gone on.
Yeah.
There. I was going to talk about the Afrobeat in relation to the Afros of the late 60s up until the 80s.
Okay.
So there was Afro rock where Osibisa comes in.
Okay.
There was Afro jazz where Ganaba comes in. There's Afro soul, which was largely in Nigeria. And out of Afro soul came the Afrobeat without the S.
Okay.
So you see a whole lot of things going on. That is how come you listen to Tiwa. That is soul.
Yeah.
R&B is. We can't still classify it as Afrobeat. But again, then we could think of how do we sell all these sounds?
Yeah.
Because High Life didn't cut it.
No.
It probably went to UK and that was it. But Afro beats.
Yeah.
My nephews who were born in America can identify with it.
Yeah.
Because of the internet. Wofa, who has left Ghana to the UK is jamming. Oh, this song is nice.
Yeah.
So all these things are clear. Something we can identify as Africans, not specific region. You know, I think that is how I see the Afrobeat, not specific style. Because when you look at Burna Boy and you listen to some of the songs he does, it is Afrobeat without the S.
Right. So let's get the difference properly.
Right.
What is Afrobeat without S and what is Afrobeat?
So let's start from the Afrobeat. The Afrobeat is so many things put together.
Okay.
Listen to Efia sounds so much like the Beyoncés, the Braxtons.
Yeah.
But from an African context. Listen to Kenata.
Yeah.
He's doing rap and what have you.
Yeah.
If we listen to Akwabwa, a bit of Korean-ish, R&B,
Yeah.
you know, spoiling the language,
Yeah.
you know, but you can classify it as, you know, Afrobeat. But then the Afrobeat without the S was specific. A specific kind of rhythm that when it is played, you know this is Afrobeat. Yeah. And there are specific elements in there. Quite predominant is the horns. You know, lengthy instrumentation. Somebody we would say built Afrobeat from where Fela did his Ebotela, who
Right. God bless his soul.
Exactly. So you listen to his Bonzi Kumkuma album, and you get that Afrobeat feel in there. It is different from you can name about 10 current musicians who call themselves Afrobeat, and you see that they do different styles.
Right. But it looks like the Hiplife and Afrobeats has done well for Ghana music or Ghanaian music in terms of global exports. Now, the international community appreciates our music better. And so now you find people like Kiddy going to, you know, the Asians to do music. Sometimes you ask yourself, why are they going there? But they go and they are selling out.
Well, sometimes we also discount social changes that is happening. Right. Think of the 1960s and how many people from Ghana were overseas.
Sure.
And think of the people who went in the 60s and how successive Ghanaians have gone overseas, raised families, some of them who are yet to come home. That longing for home would make them look for what is Ghana. First, the producer would have to send the music on CD to Ghana supermarkets overseas.
Yeah.
Today it's a bit easier because it is in our palms.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is easier for us to reach the music as compared to them. So we can say that yes, it is easier now, but we cannot discount that it started from somewhere.
Right.
So that is how come it is easier, and we are saying they are going all over the world. First, you would have to think of Fela's Egypt 8.
Right.
A band of about 20 or so people, and you have to go on tour.
Yeah.
That is so much money.
Exactly.
You know. But King Promise will go alone, probably with a DJ, some management.
Yeah.
And then the budget is quite okay. So all these factors come to play.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then of course the younger ones who we would call the diasporan Ghanaians are also making friends with people in the diaspora. For instance, we have a Ghanaian at BBC. You would want to bring some of, you know, DJ Edu always on BBC would bring a Ghanaian record on the global reach. And the Nigerians too are everywhere.
Yeah.
So self, you know, so we cannot discount how the various changes, you know, has played in why this is a bit popular than the others.
Right. So this is the sound of our identity. Interesting conversation, you know. Doc is still here. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we are looking at the music economy, you know, the digital platforms and how now we understand the music business better than before. This is the sound of our identity. We'll be right back. You're welcome back to the sound of our identity. Dr. Eric Sunodo is still here. Now, let's look at the music economy. I mean, it appears that young people today understand, you know, the business aspect of their craft. People go to school. When you get to a school of performing arts, you know, when you get to your department, you realize that we have a lot of people learning music. I did music in level 100, you know. You know, so are we on the right path? So now people demand contracts. People demand, you know, my quota. Let's discuss the business aspect of it. Where is this leading us to?
I think it is leading us to a very promising music industry. It takes from the longest conversation we've had and the experiences our forefathers have had with the music business. We've come to see people who were once popular, but today are struggling.
Yeah.
So that kind of conversation started probably over a decade or so ago. So that education, consistent conversation about the music industry, what you should look out for, is also playing a role to where we find ourselves now. But then a large chunk of musicians come thinking first of the money, not of the career. And I have had a lot of such students in the department. I ran the pop ensemble. When Kudu Dems of Inchinchim fame were there, it was the High Life ensemble. An idea
is that different from the pop band?
It was a pop band
of old. And when we were there, it was pop band, and we used to follow.
Markfish.
Yes, and what's Ibu Taylor, around.
Yeah, exactly.
Ibu Taylor has used that, so
yeah. It was referred to as the pop band, but I thought, our popular music was High Life, and to bring some form of branding and focus the pedagogy on High Life music, I made it a High Life ensemble. And that is how we experimented with some of these things. So as part of the training, I would tell them that you should be thinking of building, or I used to say paying your dues, understanding yourself as a musician, understanding the music industry, understanding that you're starting from somewhere.
Right.
And you need an ecosystem, So the Adaha is coming from that branch, and Chinchim is coming from that branch, Pampa is also coming from, and then it is growing like that. So a lot of them come wanting to be like what they have seen,
and
but not prepared to work.
Those who have gone through the system, those who have understood it properly, you can tell what they do.
Yes.
It's different.
Yes. I have students, young musicians, I should say, who come into the School of Performing Arts, wanting to better their craft, but are not willing to put in the work. And that is the problem.
Yeah.
A lot of the musicians just want the fame.
Exactly.
A lot of them, about 60-70% of them.
When they get the fame later, they realize that they need money to go with it. They need to understand the details. Exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
So when they get the fame, they're now thinking about money. They're now thinking about they signed the wrong contracts and all that.
Yes. Yes. So a lot of them don't plan their careers. They don't sit down to say, this is where I am at. This is where I see myself in the next 5 years. And these are the things I'm going to do. For instance, who do I need to help me? When I started the Palm Wine Band, we didn't know anyone. The members in the band themselves, they didn't know what we were doing. So I would do the research. I would give it to them, learn, let's go. Then it got to the point where we wanted to perform. And I was wondering, how do I get ourselves out there? I chanced on an answer, and I walked to him, I'm like, we can play for you whilst you do your poem. And that is how we started. So we tapped in his audience. And then it grew from there. Not everybody is willing to.
Anyone Heritage Caravan?
Yes, they were
a couple of years ago, right?
Yes. It was the same with the Inchinchim when they started.
Yeah.
So then I would consult for them, and I'll tell them that they need to build that kind of ecosystem. So the Inchinchim we see today, they've been through a whole lot, 10 years.
Exactly.
So they've built themselves up, and they are ready. Not everybody is willing to invest that kind of time in their craft. It's make the money, let's go.
Let's look at the digital platforms today. It's really helping,
it is one
sending
of
money out. Yeah.
It is one of the things that has come to cut away the producers who cheat musicians.
Exactly. But do the musicians today understand the relevance of the digital platforms, and are they making good use of it?
I think it is still early for us. Again, a lot of us don't understand the music industry in the sense that if there is a budget for a project, it is only 20% that should go into the creative aspect, and 80% should go into the marketing of the. But we spend about 80% in the creative.
Exactly.
And then
music videos and all that.
And then 20% to push the music doesn't go. So we are still learning.
Okay.
But what has helped with the DSPs is that now I can record a song and then let it go. The challenge that we are facing now is, how do I market it?
Right. And
that is how this ecosystem thing comes about. Like we're talking about, we need to rely on each other, but we don't do that. You're a big artist. I I invite you to my show and you say you take me money. Meanwhile, you would also have a show, you'd invite me. So why not I come do for you? That kind of ecosystem, we still don't have it. We also don't have our musicians touring our country.
They don't have the budgets, do they?
But you don't need a budget to tour your country.
Okay.
That is one thing. When I was in school in Durban, I saw their music industry as not too much sophisticated in the sense that whilst we were here, we want a small setup. We want all the gadgets in the world. But they could come, 3 people, and then have a good musical experience, devoid of all those gadgets. It is the music they are thinking of. They are building themselves. But our musicians would want to carry all the latest gadgets around.
With manager.
Think of when our forefathers or our grandfathers and fathers were going on trek.
And to think that most of these songs from old are the ones we are still enjoying today.
Exactly. It was because it was sent to the people to experience. That is one aspect. Of course, the composition and what they were writing about. Again, these days, everything is fast, you know. So we want to go in and then go out. There are people who brag about, I just go into the studio, 10 minutes, I'm done with my
I know, right? And I'm like, and you're talking about this?
Exactly. You don't pay. You are sending something out that would last the next 100 years, and you are thinking that you just went in there and did it. I won't buy your music.
So today we have disposable hits. You know,
I agree.
The song comes today. Everybody is dancing to it. In the next 3 months, we are looking for the song and the artist.
Exactly.
And they've all vanished into
Exactly.
Wow.
But that was what they were taking their time in writing the song. How do I say this in public? The same thing.
Right.
How would I express it in different contexts?
So now, how should the young musician position himself, you know, in coming in terms of the rhythm, in terms of lyrics? You know, you write him as now people don't even pay attention to our language, you know, and all that. When you listen to the Daddy Lumbers, the Nane Champons, the Kwadwa Kwabwas, when you listen to, you can tell how ornamental the language is. And so sometimes they're saying something when children are around, they don't even understand. But it looks like our young people today are singing in a certain language that they themselves do not understand. But they are singing it. How do they position themselves in wrapping up?
I think it has a lot to do with who you want to be known as a musician.
Right.
And a lot of the musicians do not think 10 years, do not think 20 years. They think of them now. But if they start putting a certain longer projection to their careers, some of these things will come to play. It is not everybody who is a songwriter.
True.
I think the musicians should come up to that realization that not everybody is a songwriter.
They should be honest to themselves.
Exactly. So find someone who can write for you, split whatever comes. You know, that is the other thing. And then look for producers who understand your vision.
Right. We will look for producers who understand our vision. Doc, we'll have to end here. But this has been very, very educative and insightful. Now we understand, you know, and if you're a young person thinking of going into music, you know what to do. And we also know where Hiplife, you know, evolved from and what we call Afrobeats and what we called Afrobeat. Know where you stand so you don't embarrass yourself, you know, when you step out there. Doc, thank you very, very much. Now, we feel like we are in your class. All right, people, so it's been great coming your way. I've been talking to Dr. Eric Sinodo of the, he is a senior lecturer at the Music Department, University of Ghana. Thank you very much for watching. This has been The Sound of Our Identity. I'm Frima Edunyami. See you again.